A desert floor in Ethiopia splits open in a single week, tearing 60 kilometers wide and swallowing anything standing on it. No earthquake warning sirens, no slow crumbling, just a rumble that made livestock scream, then a wall of black smoke that blotted out the sun for 3 days straight. This happened in 2005, and it wasn't the end of something. It was the opening scene of Earth's next ocean. Right now, Africa is tearing itself apart, and not in the slow, invisible way you might picture continents drifting. It rips in sudden, violent bursts, then goes quiet again for years, like it's catching its breath. So what's actually driving a landmass to split fast enough to birth boiling acid lakes and pitch-black volcanoes? And how does a landscape this chaotic end up becoming a calm, dark ocean floor? Stick with me, because the answer to that second part is stranger than you'd guess. Here's the setup. Deep under East Africa, a slow-moving surge of superheated mantle rock is pushing up from below, like a fist pressing against the underside of a rug. The Nubian and Somalian plates are being shoved apart by roughly 6 to 9 millimeters a year. That's about how fast your fingernails grow. But that number is deceptive, because the crust doesn't yield gracefully. It resists, and resists, and resists, storing up tension like a zipper that's stuck. Then, all at once, it gives. In September 2005, seismologist Adele Ayele picked up on a swarm of earthquakes shaking the Afar desert, and geophysicist Cindy Ebinger rushed in with extra instruments to figure out what was happening. What they found rewrote the textbooks. A dike of magma, about 2.5 cubic kilometers of it, had punched into the crust and physically unzipped 60 kilometers of desert floor in a matter of days. The ground moved 8 meters in 10 days, a world record for deformation ever caught from space. Rifting, it turned out, isn't a conveyor belt. It's a series of catastrophic snaps. But here's where it gets weird, because not every crack in this region is what it seems. In 2018, a jagged chasm tore across a Kenyan highway and swallowed the home of a man named Eliud Njoroge Ambuga. Global headlines screamed that Africa was splitting apart on camera. Seismologist Stephen Hicks looked closer and found something else entirely. No earthquakes, no vertical drop, just a layer of ancient volcanic ash that heavy rains had quietly washed out from underneath the road. The ground caved in from erosion, not tectonics. The real rift was happening elsewhere, and far more strangely. Take Oldoinyo Lengai, a volcano in Tanzania that breaks every rule you have about lava. Its lava contains almost no silica, so instead of oozing like thick red molasses, it runs fast and thin, more like boiling black coffee spilled across a table. It erupts at under 600 degrees Celsius, less than half the heat of normal lava, so it doesn't even glow at night. Then moisture in the air hits it, and the black rock turns bone white, like the volcano's peak has been dusted in snow. But that's not the strangest chapter. In the Danakil Depression, scientists went looking for life in the boiling, neon-colored acid pools of Dalol, since extreme heat plus water usually means something is alive. Biologist Purificacion Lopez Garcia proved otherwise. The pools are completely sterile. Chaotropic magnesium salts in the water shred the hydrogen bonds holding DNA together, and what looked like microbes under a microscope turned out to be lifeless mineral formations that just happened to resemble cells. If water, this hospitable-looking, can be totally dead, it raises an uncomfortable question about ocean moons like Europa that we've been calling promising. And not far from Dalol, there's a lake holding a different kind of danger. Lake Kivu has been quietly filling with methane and carbon dioxide at depths between 270 and 500 meters, trapped there by the lake's stagnant, unmixed layers. One strong enough tremor could release it all at once, a suffocating cloud rolling over the valleys below. So engineers built a floating barge called Kivu Wat, sitting offshore, sucking the gas-laden water up from 300 meters down and letting the methane bubble out safely. That gas now powers a chunk of Rwanda's electricity grid. Humanity turned a geological time bomb into a power plant. Now here's the loop I opened with, the one about where all this is actually headed. The only thing keeping the Red Sea from flooding into the Afar Depression right now is a narrow ridge of mountains called the Danakil Alps, sitting like a dam, next to a bathtub, already dug 120 meters below sea level. When that dam finally breaks, and geologists genuinely don't know if it's in 1,000 years or next week, the sea will pour in and drown the desert, creating Earth's sixth ocean basin. Everywhere else on the planet, this kind of birth happens under kilometers of crushing water, hidden from us forever. Here, in Ethiopia and Kenya and Tanzania, you can walk right up to it. And it's not just landscape being reshaped. The same rift that's cracking Africa open also carved the valleys that dried into savanna, pushing our early ancestors out of the trees and onto 2 feet. It filled Lake Tanganyika with over 18,000 cubic kilometers of water and buried 4.5 kilometers of undisturbed sediment beneath it, a sealed record of evolution running back millions of years. The same violence that terrifies geologists is the same violence that made us who we are. If a new ocean were forming somewhere on Earth in your lifetime, would you want to see it before the water came in? Somewhere under that cracked red desert, the next ocean is already waiting, patient as anything geology has ever built.